Good morning and welcome to Patriot News Network. I'm your host, Cataline Schufert.
And I'm your co-host, Asha Barron. Today we will be doing a recap of last week's presidential election.
Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Tim Scott both announced their candidacy on Monday, June 6th. Here's Maddie Graham reporting on the Tim Scott campaign announcement.
Yesterday at 8:45, Tim Scott, Senator of South Carolina, formally announced that he was running for president.
Hello, my fellow Americans, and thank you for being here with me today. But I've realized that I can't be content with happy South Carolinians if the issues that plague them continue to plague the rest of the citizens in these glorious United States. I want to continue moving the country forward and upward, lifting us as a people to higher moral, financial, and global heights. That is why I've decided to enter the race to be your 46th president.
A big theme in his speech was opportunity. Opportunity for the poor, for the disadvantaged, and for this country to grow.
Throughout my 24 years of public service, I have learned the best solution to many of our problems is opportunity. Opportunity. The reason why so many immigrants choose to start a new life in these United States is the cornerstone of who we are as a country. To me, the word opportunity means a path. Now, the path confronting us may be a very hard one, but I fought to make sure that every citizen has a path forward and upward that is visible to them. It's up to them to walk it, but it must first be visible.
He mentioned how his working class background has affected his views.
My mother had to work 16 hours a day to support me and my brothers, to give us the opportunity to do great things. It's allowed me to be able to really have experienced kind of all of the levels of the scale, of the economic scale, and I can use that personal experience to help others who may be suffering or may not have enough money to do what they need to do.
Other politicians have voiced their support for Senator Scott.
I believe that Tim Scott handled his campaign announcement and speech very well, and I believe that he answered his questions with all that he needed to answer, because of course the press conferences continuing in the week are going to answer further questions about his campaign, but I think that he did everything that he should have done today.
I would just like to say that my previous position as special counsel and my investigation into President Trump has in no way sullied my view of Tim Scott or Elizabeth Warren, especially Tim Scott. His name did not come up in my investigation, and I continue to think of him as an eloquent speaker and a very fine candidate.
For PNN, I'm Maddie Graham.
Yesterday morning, presidential hopeful Tim Scott gave a speech outlining his proposed policy plans.
The theme of my policy is Opportunity America.
His three main focuses were reform in the areas of education.
I believe that every single student in this country deserves access to a quality education, tailored to meet their needs. By providing an equal access and choice in schooling, we as Americans are preparing ourselves for greatness.
Jobs.
Help increase the number of registered apprenticeships in the U.S. to put more people to work and help fill job vacancies across the country.
And criminal justice.
Job training, education, health, and substance abuse treatments for incarcerated individuals.
He also mentioned his plans for foreign policy and immigration.
I will focus on ending the past administration's harmful trade wars. I would like to adopt a merit-based system. Immigration can and will benefit American prosperity if we ensure these immigrants can contribute meaningfully to our nation's success. I look forward to the chance to progress America forwards and upwards.
Candidates took questions after their announcements, but many were outraged by the way Senator Warren reacted to a simple question about abortion.
You just said that you would like to provide everyone with access to abortion. What would you say to the unborn children that would kill?
I believe that when a woman is pregnant... No further questions, thank you. We'll have a press conference at 10:25.
Frankly, I did not agree with many of Warren's policies, but for her, what truly showed me that she is a disgusting politician and person was when I asked a very simple, straightforward question about protecting unborn children that are currently being ripped out of their mother's wombs and murdered. And she could not respond.
We now go to Donovan Cox with commentary on campaign announcements.
Hey folks, and welcome to the Cox Corner with your host, Donovan Cox. We are getting in some campaign news about possible candidates Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren. Warren, a liberal senator from Massachusetts, seems like she might be too liberal. According to an undisclosed source within the Republican Party, Her socialist policies point to a communist agenda, and we've recently gotten in word that her campaign has been collaborating with North Korea. That's right, folks. North Korea. While these allegations are completely unconfirmed, they still exist. Pocahontas Warren might be working with a regime that puts people in death camps. In other news, we're bringing in Tim Scott himself to talk about the matter and his campaign. So Tim, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
How do you feel about the Warren allegations?
While they are unconfirmed, it would be very, very upsetting if they were true to know that such a esteemed senator was working with such a horrible and corrupt regime.
Do you think this could impact her campaign in any way?
Yes, absolutely. If these rumors turn out to be true, it would be very bad for the campaign, as the American people would have lost their trust in the person they were voting for.
So, more about you. Why are you running?
I am running to make sure that every American has the opportunity to move forward and upward. And that's my slogan, really, because I believe that every American deserves to be able to move forward and upward. They always need to be able to see the path. And so presenting them with these opportunities to grow and to move themselves out of whatever situations they are is why I've chosen to run.
What are some of your platform ideas? What stances do you take?
So in terms of business, primarily, a lot of my focus is on business. I believe that for Americans to be able to move forward and upward, the government needs to regulate them a little less so that they have the freedom to move around and to expand, to create more jobs, which gives other people the opportunity, and to promote a very strong economy.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Donovan. Shortly after announcing her campaign, Elizabeth Warren chose her running mate to be Andrew Yang, a man who supports a communist agenda.
Many were outraged at the senator's decision, as his plan to boost the economy was to pay everyone $1,000.
Earlier today, Elizabeth Warren announced her running mate, Andrew Yang. But she has yet to say if she supports Andrew Yang's communist policies, including the universal dividend, which would give $1,000 a month to all Americans across the country. This isn't democracy. This is communism. Here's Mayor Pete with his 2 cents on.
I'm troubled by Elizabeth Warren's nomination of Andrew Yang. As a liberal capitalist myself, I'm concerned with having someone with such strong communist beliefs on the ticket. I feel like the working class Americans' needs to be addressed, but I don't know if having the government just pay everyone is the smartest way to go about it.
Also very shortly into the race, Mayor Pete Buttigieg joined as a third-party candidate. He claimed that Senator Warren would not be able to win the election without conservative support.
Elizabeth Warren, I don't know if she can win this election without conservative support.
Despite joining the race late, Mayor Buttigieg left an impression on the votes, splitting the Democratic Party and at times beating Warren in the polls.
His reign was short-lived, however, as seconds before he had to give a policy speech, he dropped out.
What just happened? Can you explain? So, Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren just gave their policy speeches. Right beforehand, I dropped out of the race. I will be Elizabeth Warren's Secretary of State and her ambassador to the UN if we win the election. Things I think are looking good, as in the polls we have over 60% of the vote altogether. I think we have a good chance of beating Tim Scott. I think I made this decision for the sake of the Democratic Party. If I didn't do it, neither of us would have won. So I think I made the right decision.
Senator Lindsey Graham announced his campaign 2 days into the election. His running mate, Senator Ted Cruz.
We now go to Donovan Cox with more on Senator Graham's campaign.
Hey folks, and welcome to the second episode of Cox Corner with your host, Bass Pro Shops and fishing champion, Donovan Cox. let's talk about the rocky start to that Warren campaign. First, she's accused of international collusion with a communist country. And now she's got a commie running mate. I'm sorry, Andrew Yang is a commie piece of... I won't say it. Well, anyway, his main damn policy is giving $1,000 a month to everyone in this country. That'll drain our economy and bring the definition of welfare to a whole new level. Anyway, let's talk about some polls. The Warren campaign is behind third-party candidate Buttigieg in the polls. This is hilarious because my wife is from South Bend. Ha! In other news, we're bringing Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham on the show. Hey guys.
Hi, Mr. Cox.
How are you?
It's an honor to be here.
How are you?
Thank you for having us.
All of y'all watching out there, there have been many rumors over the past couple of days. And I've made many jokes and danced around this point, but I genuinely do believe I am the best candidate for the United States of America.
What are some policies you guys want to accomplish?
So, my biggest things are foreign policy, environmental policy, which my stance might actually surprise some people, in education. So, the education system in our country is broken. Common Core, for example, was coerced and forced onto the states. Like, they didn't actually want that. As president, I would compile like a panel of expert like educational people. I'm talking professors, politicians, and actual students, and I would develop a new program that is more aimed towards the needs of the actual individual student. And as far as environment, I'm sorry, it's unpopular, but fossil fuels as a non-renewable energy source it's detrimental to the future of our country. We have to move forward.
Why are you guys running?
Well, before you get to that, I'd like to add, we have a comprehensive economic plan that includes extreme tax reform, job growth, and other business opportunities, and later, when we have a platform discussion, we'll get into that more.
Okay.
We are running, sorry. Because as I was looking at the candidates and as I was looking at their speeches, I did not feel represented adequately by any of them. And who am I to assume the general public does not feel the same?
Let's hear 'em.
What do you have to say about the communist infiltration of this campaign?
Well,
disgusting.
Well, Elizabeth Warren is not herself. She is extremely socialist, and she wants this larger-than-life government that the American public just doesn't actually want. Andrew Yang, who is Andrew Yang? Before yesterday, I didn't even know who Andrew Yang was. He is not a politician.
He's a communist.
I have 10 years experience on every politician running, and I honestly thought Elizabeth Warren was going to be more of a problem. But to pick such an unexperienced running mate is reckless. And frankly, it's going to lose at the election.
We are America, the greatest country in the world. We can't have communists getting in the way of our elections.
Yeah. All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Donovan. The shock surrounding Lindsey Graham's campaign announcement was dulled by Mayor Pete Buttigieg's behavior shortly after.
Mayor Buttigieg had an outburst in the Padmore Post headquarters, stating that the Warren campaign had threatened his life.
Are you Someone get Chasten. Make sure he's okay.
Well,
oh my God, he's
here. Are allowed to use this.
Don't let them hurt my family.
Okay, here, you grab his arms, I'll grab his feet.
You need a rolling chair.
Okay, grab his arms.
Who threatened? Miles. I'm not allowed to say.
You're gonna cut him like Miranda.
Get this man to a doctor. I'm not
I
allowed
need
to
a
say.
doctor! Can I get a doctor, please?
I can't go in the hallway. They're out there.
How do you get up?
I can't get up.
I need you to stop.
I'll carry you. I can't get up.
No. Mr. Mayor!
Have a little nap.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna have to have you get up.
Did
the Democrats hurt you?
I can't say.
Did Warren hurt you?
I'm not allowed to say.
Water.
I need water.
Water. Someone get him water.
The Warren campaign has denied these allegations and filed a lawsuit against Buttigieg, which will be heard in court today.
Hey folks, official sponsor of the Kentucky Derby here, Donovan Cox. Welcome to the Cox Corner. Today's gonna be a short one. No special guests this time. Let's get into it. Pete Buttigieg had a temper tantrum in the middle of Blair Boulevard yesterday because he was sore about getting kicked out of the race. Sorry, Pete. Roll it.
I thought I could trust them. But they are not the true Democratic Party.
Faking emotions is not the way to get a running mate, buddy. That's right. The reason Petey dropped out was because no one wanted to be his running mate. Now there's a civil suit from the Warren campaign because they're angry about Pete's BS antics. Anyway, later today I'll be hosting a presidential debate. Be hyped. Hunter Walterman, a man I disagree with but respect very much, will be hosting with me. Stay tuned. Peace out, folks, and have a decent day. God bless.
The Warren campaign took Mayor Buttigieg to court on account of false accusations. And now we go to Donovan Cox for a recap.
Hey folks, welcome to Cox Corner. I'm your host, as always, professional golf caddy, Donovan Cox. Let's get into today's news. It'll be a doozy. Wishy-washy Warren can't decide whether she likes Kami Yang or not. She disowns his universal dividend. However, this doesn't make sense because Yang's only policy is the dividend. If you're gonna have someone run with you, have the decency to back up his own damn policy, even if it's commie garbage. So Warren, either drop Yang or endorse his policy. Both will show that you have a backbone, because right now, you're spineless. Yesterday, the FBI released an official report detailing an alleged break-in into the Warren campaign. It also alleges that the likes of Barack Obama and some of his goons were the perpetrators. This is serious, like Watergate 2. Finally, the ruling for Baby Pete's tantrum is officially out. Here to talk about that is Daily Direction reporter Lilia Wong. Can you tell us about yesterday's case?
Yeah, so the Warren campaign, the plaintiffs, brought a very strong case against Buttigieg, and they called 4 witnesses: Mark Zuckerberg, Barack Obama, Jacob Warren, and a reporter from Padmore Post. Then the defense brought Bob, a security guard who allegedly saw the incident, as well as Buttigieg himself, who was very emotional on the stand. You could tell he was not in a sound mental state at all.
Why do you think he was so upset?
I think he was really upset because he lost the nomination. No one would be his running mate, and he ultimately had to drop out of the race because of that.
Can you tell us about any scoops you've recently gotten?
Right, so I just wrote a story on Buttigieg and his web of lies, and how this event that he acted out was really a way to get attention. And I think you will see him come out with an apology that is a consequence of his loss, and you will see him being censored because he cannot be trusted in the media.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for today, folks. Stay tuned for the next episode of Cox Corner.
Only one question is left unanswered. How can we trust a party this divided to run our country?
And now, a word from the Elizabeth Warren is a Communist Foundation.
Don't trust Elizabeth Warren, Liz. She flip-flops on the issues, and she's even flip-flopped on her racial identity. She may claim to be a moderate, but she's running with Andrew Yang, a communist who wants to hurt the economy and stop job growth using his universal dividend plan. Don't trust Liz. She divided her party by casting Pete Buttigieg out of the party, causing him to have a mental breakdown. She's a divider and a liar who wants to bring communism back to the United States, paid for by the Elizabeth Warren is a Communist Foundation. Elizabeth Warren, born in a state renowned for its Native American discrimination, is not only a liar, but a full-blown racist. Instead of supporting the people she claims to be a part of, she creates policy in order to further discriminate against them. Warren created the CFBP, described as the, quote, most hostile federal agency towards Indian tribes since Indian Affairs was in the War Department by officials. Liz, you're not a native. You're a racist. Would you really trust a candidate hell-bent on destroying the reputation of the Native Americans of this country? Elizabeth Warren is dangerous for America.
On Wednesday, after establishing their candidacy, both candidates sat down for a co-hosted debate by PNN and NBA to discuss important topics such as abortion, gun control, and mass incarceration. Although people were unsure of who the winner was, many felt that Tim Scott did an overall better job than Elizabeth Warren. On day 5 of the race, Senator Kevin McCarthy, Secretary Ben Carson, and Representative Cheney hosted the Gala for Life. We go now to Maddie Graham with more news on the Gala.
Hi, I'm Maddie Graham, and just moments ago, the Gala for Life has come to its conclusion. The event was co-hosted by many prominent Republican politicians and other figures.
Welcome to our Pro Life Gala. Gala for Life! Gala for Life.
And many of them gave speeches.
As a religious man, I believe that abortion is a sin. But I recognize that not all of us worship the same God, and some of us don't worship one at all. But regardless of who you are or what you believe in, abortion is murder. It is flat out selfish to engage in intercourse simply for lust. The sole purpose is to bring life into the world. A very beautiful thing. Do not engage in intercourse if you're not mutually trying to create a baby and willing to raise it.
Of course, abortion isn't a partisan issue. It's not just for conservatives or just for liberals. It's an issue for Americans, for humans. Abortion hurts humans. Families' hard-earned, tax-paid money goes to killing babies in their mother's womb.
When I work with these babies, they do feel pain and they do react. That abortion is murderous and barbaric.
Including presidential candidate Tim Scott.
Our children are our future, and I think it is a tremendous tragedy that a great many of a lot of our future, a lot of our children never have the chance to touch the soil. And I believe that we need to stand for the rights of unborn children.
The event featured food and a lively crowd, however was rudely interrupted by Democratic politicians Pete Buttigieg and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Goes to funding organizations like Planned Parenthood that facilitate and execute abortions. This is our reality.
I support a women's right to choose.
But more on that later. For PNN, I'm Maddie Graham.
Today, during the Gala for Life, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Mayor Pete Buttigieg interrupted the ceremony, claiming that they were pro-choice, making a mockery of the event.
Following the gala, members of both parties attended a bipartisan benefit concert hosted by Oprah at her California estate. Paying homage to his South Carolina roots, Tim Scott and his campaign led everyone in a fun game of apple bombing.
Oprah's bipartisan benefit party in Southern California was a, quote, wild time. Both Elizabeth Warren and Tim Scott, official presidential candidates, spoke. Tim Scott pushed a moderate, peaceful message. Here's a clip of that.
Today, I'm glad to be among my fellow Americans from both sides of the aisle. I believe that the best approach to achieving progress is by standing together. Even though I am traditionally conservative, I am also able to acknowledge that the only way to move forwards and upwards is through compromise and respect.
While Scott seemed to be calm, composed, and natural, Warren's message seemed to be forced in a last-ditch attempt to gain votes.
Those thousands of people matter. Even that one vote matters. When you cast a vote, you are allowing your voice to be heard.
During the benefit, Lindsey Graham dropped out of the race to pledge his support for candidate Tim Scott. Scott and Graham became friends during the benefit, and they even bobbed for apples in a South Carolinian tradition. Charles Thrush with PNN, and thanks for watching.
However, all fun and games must eventually come to an end. At his event, Senator Lindsey Graham turned the subject to more serious matters, announcing that he had decided to drop out of the presidential race.
Originally, I ran on the basis that there was not a single candidate that supported my ideals. But I had to sit down with Mr. Scott. We went over some of his policies. And I truly am proud to say that the Tim Scott that stands before you right there is a Tim Scott I can vote for. And therefore, I withdraw my candidacy. Thank you, Mr. Scott, for your service.
And there you have it. After an exciting week of American politics, it's time to finally select who you want to be your president.
But first, a word from the Tim Scott for America campaign.
This is Tim Scott, U.S. Senator from South Carolina, your future president, and an honest, everyday American. He wants to serve everyday Americans just like you, and is willing to talk to every American about the issues they care about. He is willing to work with the other side, and is a political trailblazer for the Republican Party, being the first African American to serve as a senator in South Carolina 3 decades. He's honest, and he wants to be your future president.
I'm Tim Scott, and I approve this message.
Thanks for tuning in. For PNN, I'm Cataline Schufert.
And I'm Asha Barron.